Hello, Tim. P. Mars here, Troll Team 6 Division, requesting permission to go after Scimandan. Yeah, that guy on YouTube who does all the fake sketches where he's talking to a secret agent. That bit is hilarious. I think I'm gonna have to steal it from my video. So, today I noticed it. Well, it's tinfoil. It's tinfoil hat Tuesday. We got Contrail Encyclopedia Britannica. Thank you, YouTube. Very informative. It's tinfoil hat Tuesday, and I noticed Scimandan here posted a video, the fairy tales of chemtrails. See, it rhymes. Very clever. And well, why don't we watch this here video? See ya. I did not mean to be playing it that fast. And my audio is fucked. That's no good. I'll be right back. Fuck me, it's so unprofessional. Okay, hopefully this didn't create two videos by doing that. So here we go.
It's this. If there's one conspiracy you can guarantee will go hand in hand with Flat Earth, it's this one.
Now we have Jackie's images from Ackworth in Georgia. Look how the chemical formations to the left side of a change towards the sun is hanging out the skies.
Okay, so he starts this video. If there's one thing that can go hand in hand, one conspiracy to go hand in hand with Flat Earth, it's this one. This is such a insane conspiracy. It's just as crazy as Flat Earth. See, this is how the counterintelligence works. Because the truth is, which I'm going to expose, that chemtrails is not as crazy as a conspiracy theory as Flat Earth. It's not even close. And it's deceptive for someone like Scimandan, who doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, to try and lump all these conspiracies into this category of shit that it's all the same and all should be just as unbelievable as Flat Earth or, aliens coming down and visiting us. And it's not the truth.
Aluminium, barium, nickel, lead. Far too many.
Masters at the ready.
Lead. Far too many dangerous chemicals. It's hanging up there in our atmosphere.
Argon blasters at the ready. Welcome to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday. My name is Scimandan and I am delighted you can join me. Yes, today we're talking about the idea that planes have a secret agenda. One in which involves dumping huge amounts of chemicals across the sky for whatever reason the conspiracy theorists pick that day.
Maybe the patent of the Howard Hughes company. Maybe that's why they think that. It could be the patent.
I swear sometimes they pick it out of a hat.
Oh, the hat. Okay. I guess you didn't know about the patent. So maybe.
But seriously.
Maybe you get your information about conspiracy theories from people with like 5 subscribers, and that's why you're debunking this guy and taking him as legitimate source. I could go get my scientific data about how the Earth is a globe from random people on the street, and then cherry pick the biggest idiots I find, and then go on the internet and go, look, all the people who believe in the globe are crazy. Is basically what these guys are doing, the conspiracy cats and Scimandan. They're going to the most insane, crazy, conspiratorial-minded people, and they're acting as if all conspiracies are illegitimate, and these are the people that represent these positions. And it's really not fair. It'd be just like me going up to random lay people on the street and asking them about science, and then saying, see, look, all these science ideas are dumb. These people don't know what they're talking about. It's deceptive. It's not really fair. And you're also not funny.
Seriously, this sounds quite disturbing, and I think I should look into the matter a little bit more. Let's join our reporter in the field, David Yates, to get an update on the situation. David, How are we looking today?
We are being aerosolized. I don't know why people do not believe me when I am showing you this. I am showing you this that spreads out into all this milky crap. That stuff there in the middle there. Yeah, this here. Chemtrail plane there, right in the centre of this shot. People don't believe it. People don't want to believe it. Why? I do not get it. Aircraft there, right in the centre of that shot there. Look. These things are everywhere.
Devastating scenes, David. What else can you tell us?
No one wants to believe it. No one wants to look up. But look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Hundreds of miles of this, which spreads into thousands of miles wide and millions of miles the Earth wide. Look.
David, you said millions of Earth miles wide. Remember when we did Earth 101 and we said that the Earth has a diameter of 12,742 kilometres? You can't say gas like that, buddy. Let's draw a line under it and move on.
There, look. And look again here, I kid you not. This is putrid poison, and when you get up on the hills and look down onto Manchester,
It's like you're criticizing this guy for getting what, the millions of Earth miles, dude. I don't think he's literally meant that.
Various clouds and some condensation trails, or contrails, left by planes. There's a reason.
Like, how do you debunk someone who's being obviously what's the freaking word where you exaggerate? He's exaggerating. Like, you're debunking people that are using hyperbole. That's the word I'm looking for. He's being hyperbolic. Why are you debunking someone who's obviously exaggerating? You know, do you think everyone is fucking literal all the time? Are you constantly literal? This is why you debunk people like this. It's because you fucking take everything literally.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's fucking ridiculous. He's debunking that. He's debunking this guy. He thinks this is legitimate. He can't tell that this guy is doing a satire. He has no sense of humor. And he has to take everything literally and cherry pick examples of people using hyperbole to prove them wrong. Like, this is really reaching.
No one cares. It's because these chemtrails that you're referring to are just complete conspiracy nonsense. There is absolutely no credibility or scientific proof to prove that they are what you say they are.
All right. Well, we got an article here from the Wise Up Journal by Gabriel O'Hara. And here he says, "We are so familiar with nonsensical trivia that fills so many news mediums these days that the following information might appear the same. But it's quite the opposite. It will soon become apparent from authorized sources how important it is. To give the subject proper consideration, we'll need to look at a number of these sources, including an important government-funded report, an article published by the New York Times wrote by Pulitzer Prize winner Seymour H. Hersh, reminding us of some old facts, and some other government sources." Oh, that's interesting because, see, if I was getting my information from Scimandan, I would think that every fucking conspiracy theorist gets their information from a guy with 5 subscribers filming the sky just saying nonsense. Because that's the height of conspiracy research, according to this guy. And people, this is another leader in the conspiracy research community, according to frickin' Scimandan here, this kid. So we gotta debunk him. And all these atheist trolls, they fucking just follow whatever Scimandan does, and they go to this guy's website like little mindless zealots. Oh, well, he debunked it, so,
Typical? What now?
Scientifical. That when you stand on a curve, when you stand on a sphere, you look out, you can see the curve. You look out, there's a curve, and so you know you're on a sphere because you see the curve. I don't see the curve. So there's no curve. If I were in a sphere, I'd be able to see it.
We're not standing.
Why are you debunking this guy? Why don't you debunk actual leaders of the flat Earth movement that make content, not fucking kids in high school that are making fun of flat earthers? Why don't you try and argue with someone about chemtrails who knows what the fuck they're talking about? Why do you pick out these random laymen who are making videos and they clearly don't do research, and the low-hanging fruit to debunk?
No one pays it any mind again. Right at the top of me, eh? Another
I don't even know why Scimandan put this video out today. Like,
That's it.
there's no freaking. It's not informative. This isn't funny. These guys aren't even being that crazy.
I kid you not.
I don't know.
So,
I don't know how that's
not really
entertainment.
surprising.
This is ridiculous. I should,
Right, what did this guy
Well,
say?
you do live in Manchester, which has an airport, so
Oh, yeah, okay. He's being sarcastic.
I'm afraid because this is not going to stop.
if you're referring to air travel, then you're correct. It won't.
What the
Not
fuck?
going to stop more people like me. I needed to try and get it stopped. Am I flogging a dead horse?
We need more Simon's Dans to go on YouTube and just repeat Snopes articles.
Ah, flogging a dead horse. The idiom which means to continue something even though the outcome has been decided. The outcome in this instance is that chemtrails are about as real as the abominable snowman. High column.
Really? That's interesting because I applied for a job at Weather Modification Incorporated, which sprayed chemicals into the air for geoengineering purposes, but okay.
Are they forest beings? Okay, that's enough from David. Let's have a look at where they're going wrong. The clouds that appear behind planes sometimes are just contrails. Contrails are
Now we're going to learn about contrails. Simon Dan, are you aware that chemtrail people know what a contrail is? Because when people research chemtrails, that's one of the first thing they look at is contrails. They're not... These people that believe these crazy conspiracy theories, they're not as retarded as you think they are, but...
video of contrails forming. So contrails are essentially human-induced clouds and contain pretty much water.
blah,
Has
blah,
passed
blah.
through. This state is that there are high levels of fluoride and metals in the chemtrails themselves,
Yes.
designed to dumb down the people as we inhale ourselves into an early grave.
Well, that's because that's what it said in the patent, if you did your research. What does it say? One technique proposed to seed the metallic particles was to add tiny particles to the fuel of jet airliners. Talk about... While this method would increase the reflection of visible light incidence from space, the metallic particles would trap the long wavelength backbody radiation released from the Earth. The cold result net increase in global warming. Such materials can include the class of materials known as Welbosch materials. The oxides of metal, example aluminum oxide, are also suitable for the purpose. So I mean, it's in the patent. That's why I think some people have claimed to collect chemtrail residue and test it and find some of these metals.
Well, commercial aviation began about...
I'm not an expert on chemtrails. Like, I don't know that much about it, but I know enough to know that this guy is fucking totally incorrect.
100 years ago, and has significantly increased since then. In fact, today, at any one point, there are almost 10,000 planes in the sky. And how has human health and lifespan been affected in the last 100 years?
Well, he says in the last 100 years, but chemtrails hasn't been going on for 100 years. It, I think, started in 1998, so I don't know. What point are you making? I think...
No need to answer that one, is there? Let's now take a look at YouTuber Aware Prepare Survive, who thinks that chemtrails are starting to affect his rainwater.
Welcome Sunday,
He's more... now he's debunking some, like, Southern hick.
July the 1st, 2018 at 7 a.m. and at
Y'all gonna debunk me, Scimandan, and my this here YouTube video? You gonna prove me wrong, Scimandan?
11 a.m. They started chemtrailing.
Contrailing.
Before it showed back up at a few times.
You have just single-handedly debunked yourself and every chemtrail believer in history. Well done.
So I'll just go up to some guy in the street and I'll ask him to prove the globe, and then when he can't, I'll go, "Oh, you just debunked the globe model, you idiot!" And all of you just debunked all of science and history, you idiot.
The water has been discolored. It's been like a milky color or a brownish color, and you know, as you can see in the chair here.
I mean, this guy's a dumbass, but
the initial collection of the rainwater, and also the shot on his seat, the rainwater seems to be much clearer. Maybe he's just got a dirty glass. So what about the science?
Yeah, what about
I can
the
hear
science?
flat earthers and
We're nine minutes in. Let's get to the science of your 11-minute video. Okay, so excited.
chemtrailers shouting at me now, saying, "Prove it, prove it." Well, I thought you'd never ask. In 2016, 77 scientists, including atmospheric chemists and geochemists...
Science officially debunks chemtrails, but the conspiracy will likely live on. A panel of 77 atmospheric and geochemists weigh in. I mean... wouldn't you expect people that are geoengineering the weather to put out disinformation and propaganda on it? I mean, for example, after 9/11, the EPA told us that the air was safe. But now, former EPA head admits she was wrong to tell New Yorkers post 9/11 the air was safe. So, I mean, they don't always tell us the truth. And why does this article have to mention that there's 77 atmospheric... Like, why does the number of scientists matter? That's just a propaganda technique, because science has nothing to do... That's an appeal to majority. I'm getting that wrong. Saying just because more people believe it, then all that should matter should be the data. It shouldn't matter how many scientists analyze the data. I'd like to go into like this speech here Michael Crichton gave when he was debating man-made climate change, and it's called Aliens Cause Global Warming. Here he says, "I want to pause here and talk about this notion of consensus and the rise of what has been called consensus science. I regard consensus science as an extremely pernicious development that ought to be stopped cold in its tracks. Historically, the claim of consensus has been the first refuge of scoundrels. It is a way to avoid debate by claiming that the matter is already settled. Whenever you hear the consensus of scientists agrees on something or other, reach for your wallet because you're being had. Let's be clear. The work of science has nothing whatever to do with consensus. Consensus is the business of politics. Science, on the contrary, requires only one investigator who happens to be right, which means that he or she has results that are verifiable by reference to the real world. In science, consensus is irrelevant. What is relevant is reproducible results. The greatest scientists in history are great precisely because they broke with the consensus. There is no such thing as consensus science. If it's consensus, it isn't science. If it's science, it isn't consensus. Period. In addition, let me remind you the track record of consensus is nothing to be proud of. Let's review a few cases." So he goes into like numerous examples of how one person has been called a crazy, insane person by the scientific community, like the guy who first thought of the idea of germs, for example. And everyone was like, "You're crazy. There's no such thing as bacteria and germs." And then they developed, microscopes, and they discovered that guy was right. So There's been a lot of instances in our history of one person being thought of as insane and crazy and then later proven right when the technology caught up to him. So, I mean, if these atheist skeptic trolls understood simple things like this in regards to science, they wouldn't be so upset that there's crazy people saying the earth is flat on the internet. Like, it's okay for people to have crazy ideas. What is not okay is for us to think that it's more dangerous for someone to go online and say something that's incorrect and crazy and misinformation. Like, that's more dangerous than silencing people and not letting people break away from consensus. That would be more dangerous than someone just being wrong about something. Okay? Jesus.
Evaluated the data cited as evidence.
Also, I wanted to go into this guy, Scott Stevens, who was interviewed on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan had a show on television called Question Everything, in which he tried to make chemtrail conspiracy look retarded. And he did this by doing an interview with a weatherman who believed in chemtrails and was doing research into it, and he would edit the film back. So during the interview, he would show the audience Joe Rogan asking the guy a question, but then edit in a different answer to a different question, but it looked like he was answering, the first question. And he did this to make this guy look crazier than he actually is. He's probably pretty crazy, but I think that's deceptive. And Scimandan and Conspiracy Cats, they do the same thing. They do it in a way that it's obvious they're editing. Like what Joe Rogan did, I think, is a little bit worse because the audience couldn't really tell that it was an edit, and Conspiracy Cats and then Scimandan, they do it to be funny, and it's a little bit different, but it's the same tactic
rigged in the
Joe
first
Rogan
place.
used. And look, I'm getting this this clip from ODD.
Let's get into that.
I couldn't find the original.
Chemtrail believer. First of all, man, thank you very much for doing this. Really appreciate it, and thanks for sharing whatever information you know about this.
Hey everybody, you probably watched the Joe Rogan Questions Everything episode of the Sci-Fi Channel that aired this July 31st. They first contacted me back in early July. David Marcus was the senior producer who wrote me the initial email back then, and it was his goal, at least as conveyed to me, to get this topic into the mainstream, to make the debunkers eat their words, not his words, but essentially the concept of what this project was supposed to do. There was so much evidence, it was so clear, so self-evident, as he expressed it to me, that it was a slam dunk. Now, with a project that had that intent expressed to me up front, I wanted to be a part of. And so I let A. Smith & Company, who was a production house for this, have access to what I had. And my time was important, and so I made a very special day to me, April 16th, available. So I went out there and did the shooting with them. It's interesting because the producers seemed upfront, they were gung-ho, they were interested in what we had, getting that shared with the public. That information was important. And then on my file, on my computer, there was a little note, another file called Nibiru. And Joe Rogan saw that and began to question me along that line of thinking. It had nothing to do with chemtrails or geoengineering, nothing at all. It was along that line that Joe Rogan began to question me about Nibiru. And I saw his eyes. He was looking at me, and then he kind of did a little nod off to a story producer and then back to me. So that was the hit, in hindsight, that they were going to try to take me down with. And that became apparent as the afternoon of shooting with A. Smith & Company and Joe Rogan continued. Let's have a look at what they eventually shared with the public after assembling what was a beautiful cast of characters that I helped them put together. Billy Myers, Mick from Metabunk, I put them in contact with. They already had Michael Murphy. He gave them my contact information. So there were two of those critical people that they wouldn't have had if they hadn't have contacted me. Let's watch the episode.
So when you see these crisscross patterns across the sky, what do you believe is happening?
See this square in the clouds with the ice crystal leaping up.
And they did not let me answer that question. Joe posed the question, and now we've jump cut to another conversation. So in editing, what Joe has left, he's left a question dangling. Cut. And now they've brought in my answer, my reply from a different question. How to mold the story in.
You believe that there's some sort of technology that's controlling the weather?
Sure, they want to.
So that's essentially what I wanted to show you guys. How, if chemtrails is so crazy, there's no evidence. Why does Joe Rogan have to use these manipulative edits to make this guy look crazy? Why can't he just play an honest clip back, not in actual context, to make him look crazy? And that's what these conspiracy and Scimandan do. They're taking stuff out of context, many of it which they don't have to take out of context, because if they just played the clip, a lot of these people on the internet will say crazy things. You don't even have to take it out of context. But like, if they're doing this hit piece on chemtrails, like, why can't they just be honest and present the evidence? Why do they have to use rhetoric like we have to know the number of scientists, because that's rhetoric. That's trying to influence our opinion with the number of experts. Then that's insignificant. All that's significant is the data. Or Joe Rogan has to use like sneaky tricks. If chemtrails are such bullshit, just be honest and up front and show us the data. We don't need any of this propaganda bullshit to influence us.
For chemtrail programs. 76 of the 77 scientists, spot the flat earther, stated they encountered no evidence to believe they were chemtrails, and that the evidence cited could be explained through well understood physics and chemistry as aircraft contrails. This was their conclusion, and I quote, "While we understand that many of the fears underlying SLAP, secret large-scale atmospheric spraying program, theories may be legitimate, the evidence as evaluated here does not point to a secret atmospheric spraying program." I'll leave the full PDF of the investigation in the description. So there we have it. Please, if anyone ever says that chemtrails are a thing, please kindly point out to them that they aren't, and then point them in the direction of this video. So, all that's left to do is say goodbye to David. Hi David, thanks very much for that. I'll see you later.
Dead right, I'm flogging a dead horse. Yeah? Well, like Jesus Christ, I believe in miracles, yeah? Things, as history tells us, can be brought back to life. Yeah, so maybe there's hope for this dead horse. This is a filthy sky on a massive scale.
Bloody hell, he's still going. Thank you all for joining me. If you enjoyed that, please do like and subscribe.
Yeah, like and subscribe, guys. He needs more. He only has 100,000. So, I guess I'll just end this video. I'll just play this out, this chemtrail information. A chemtrail argument coming from someone who's not fucking retarded. I'd like to see you conspiracy debunkers. Well, you can't find a flat earther that's actually not retarded, because that doesn't exist, but I'd like to see you guys actually debunk serious people that have put thought into what they're saying, not just crazy people on the internet. That would be impressive to me, because I think conspiracy cats and Scimandan and all these debunker people are total fucking idiots who don't know how to question any authority whatsoever. They just parrot whatever fucking Reuters and AP says.
20, 30, 40, 50 years behind the times. That's what they do. And when something crops up that you should see, or a few people are noticing, in comes their propaganda. They're the first to put out the propaganda. Like the noctilucent clouds that suddenly started appearing, and they try to tell you how far back they went, and they were not new at all, and all this rubbish. It was all rubbish. Always putting the spin on things so that you tell an idiot, and there's lots of idiots out there. Have you ever looked at the sky and wondered what all those lines are? And they'll tell you, must be a lot of aircraft, There's about 2 aircraft going into Sudbury per day here. That's about it. Meanwhile, you've got about 15 in the air spraying back and forth. Well, I don't know. But they're gone. Most folk are gone, and you've got to accept that. Or you'll spend your life battering your head, trying to use your ego to dominate their ego until they admit you're right. That's a killer. Don't fall into that trap. Most folk will do that with their families. All you do is get kicked out, or they'll move off, or something like that. You can only use your time on people who are worthwhile to use it upon. Ones who are already asking questions. If they're asking questions, that means they're not quite so lobotomized as the rest. They have a bit of wildness there, of survivable capabilities. Now, I've gone on in quite depth for years actually, because when the spraying started here daily in Ontario, daily it started in 1998. I can remember the day it started. I couldn't believe it when I walked outside, and they were much lower at that time, doing heavy, long trails from horizon to horizon, and it literally was like a checkerboard, north, south, east, west. And it's been like that ever since. They're a bit higher now. They've got better stuff to mix together that form into this mushy eggshell color much quicker than the old types that they used. And they are adding to it with different things here and there. That's why your throat gets raspy or sore throats. That's why about 60% of the public get recurrent bronchitis now. They just don't know what causes it. That's why everyone's allergic to everything. They call it allergies. Well, no wonder you're being poisoned, folks. This article here sums up a lot of this. I'm going to read quite a lot of it tonight because it's well worth it, and it's got a lot in it. And it's not speculation, it's from government sources themselves. And it's from the Wise Up Journal. And it's from the 13th of April, 2010. Howard Hughes Company, the company's climate change fight, it says. We're so familiar with nonsensical trivia that fills so many news mediums these days that the following information might appear the same, but it's quite the opposite. It will soon become apparent from authorized sources how important it is. To give the subject proper consideration, we need to look at a number of these sources, including an important government-funded report, an article published by the New York Times, written by Pulitzer Prize winner Seymour M. Hirsch, reminding us of some old facts, and some other governmental sources. And I'll read some of this text when I come back. I mean, it really is on the ball. And I've got all this stuff already, and I've read this book, so I'll touch on some of the main parts of it and implications of it for you too. We're living in a fantasy, folks. Back after these messages. Hi, folks. This is Alan Watt, and we're cutting through the matrix, reading an article from Wise Up on the spraying and the governmental sources that you can go to see, yep, they're doing it all right, and how they've gone about it up till this present time, and where they want to go with it. And so the text below is taken directly from the United States government patent site. The restricted for government-only domain.gov can be seen in the site's address. It shows a technology with patent number, and it gives you the number by Hughes Aircraft Company, filed in 1990, with relating technology filed back in 1965. Keep in mind that the US government funded a large 1992 report titled, this is a very important report or book really, Policy Implications of Greenhouse Warming, Mitigation, Adaptation, and the Science Base. By the way, you can get it on PDF and on Scribd, I think, if you do a search. There's a few places you can get it for free, which can be read from the archive of the National Academies Press. You can also go in there too and take it basically chapter by chapter. Discuss this technology on a global scale and expressed, quote, the surprise of this analysis is the relatively low costs. This is what they're on about, the low costs of dumping aluminum oxide and various other metallic oxides into the atmosphere. And they said at the time, we can do this within 2 years. That was published in 1992. It says, we'll read some more detailed extracts from this report momentarily and see how current administrations support it. But first, the technology that Hughes Company developed decades ago. Now, all the links that I'll mention are on the site, the gov links and whole bits from the government itself. So there's no conspiracy here. It's from them, those guys. And it's got the patent numbers and all the rest of it too, and links to the patent numbers. But listen to this. This is what's in this particular policy implications of greenhouse warming. That all the big, it's a Bible for these guys at the top. It says stratospheric Welsh-back seeding for reduction of global warming. This invention relates to a method for the reduction of global warming resulting from the greenhouse effect, and in particular to a method which involves the seeding of the Earth's stratosphere with Welsh-back-like materials. Most current approaches to reduce global warming are to restrict the release of various greenhouse gases, such as CO2, CFC and methane. These imply the need to establish new regulations and the need to monitor various gases and to enforce the regulations. One technique proposed to seed the metallic particles was to add the tiny particles to the jet fuel of jetliners so that the particles would be emitted from the jet engine exhaust while the airliner was at its cruising altitude. While this method would increase the reflection of visible light incident from space, the metallic particles would trap the long wavelength black body radiation released from the Earth. This could result in net increase in global warming. It said here, not decrease by increase. And that, you found that too. When you're spraying heavily in a summer with that polymer type material C, it actually increases the heat down below. So such materials can include the class of materials known as Welsh-back materials. Oxides of metals such as aluminum oxide are also suitable for the purpose. The greenhouse gases layer typically extends between 7 and 13 kilometers above the Earth's surface. The seeding of the stratosphere occurs within this layer. The particles suspended in the stratosphere. And that's all I give, to suspend it in the stratosphere for as long as possible. This article also, I've got into all these different sites, by the way, in the government sites. They admit that in sunrise and sunset you'll get these odd kind of rainbow effects around the sun. That's been getting seen now since 98 pretty regularly now. But they also mention in it too that they're going to use multi-battery and arrays of super lasers to pulse through the atmosphere. And I've seen the pulsation effects on some nights. It's like a piano. Someone playing a piano from top to bottom, back and forth, rippling across the sky. They're actually doing this stuff. Have been for years, folks. To continue with this one here, it says here, it's presently believed that the particle sizes in the 10 to 100 micron range would be suitable for the seeding purposes. Larger particles would tend to settle to the Earth more quickly. By the way, they also use jet streams. That's why I get so much dumped on top of me here. It carries it all the way down, large carrying area, down to Buffalo and New York area. And it comes up. They also seed it heavily over Chicago area. The greenhouse gases are typically in the Earth's stratosphere at an altitude of 7 to 13 kilometers. This suggests that the particle seeding should be done at an altitude of order of 10 kilometers and then be seeded by dispersal from seeding aircraft, where an exemplary technique may be via the jet fuel as suggested by prior work, remember, they'd already done the studies on it back then, regarding the metallic particles. The National Academy of Sciences, who have a U.S. Congress charter, organized the creation of the report, again, policy implication of greenhouse warming, mitigation, adaptation, and the science base. You got to, for those who have a brain and don't mind struggling through stuff, you'll find it fascinating. For the rest of them, forget it. It's not written for you. It's just not written, you'll lose interest, after a few sentences. As on page 8 of the front matter, it states that the project was funded by the government, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and got other funding from a consortium of private foundations, again the parallel government, including the Carnegie Corporation of New York, the Charles E. Culpeper Foundation, the William and Flora Hewlett Foundation, John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, and the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. The project had a massive amount of people involved, and United Nations man Maurice Strong, Maurice Strong, the technocrat, that's what he's called, a technocrat, not responsible to the public, but makes big agendas like the Earth Charter. He was there at the conception phase, as stated in page 3. This is from the government. These introductory pages show what specialists from private and governmental bodies were involved with tunnel knowledge in the fields of chemistry, law, the Air Force, biomedical engineering, civil and environmental engineering, genetics is involved, atmospheric physics, and economics, to name a few. professors were brought in from the most upper-class colleges in the United States, such as Harvard, Yale, Carnegie, Berkeley, MIT, who constantly work with the United States Department of Defense, and MIT certainly does it more than others, the Rockefeller University, and so on. General Motors acquired Hughes Aircraft Company, plus its technology, and their vice president of the research laboratories, Robert Frosch, took part along with Joseph Glass, the director, vice president, and general manager of the fluorochemical division at DuPont, the world's second largest chemical corporation that also works with the military. There are many other notables, including John McLucas and former U.S. Secretary of the Air Force. On page 59 of the report, Hughes patented his way is listed amongst other options. The patent is to use aircraft to maintain a cloud of dust in the low stratosphere to reflect sunlight. Page 59 also states, geoengineering options appear technically feasible in terms of cooling effects and costs on the basis of currently available preliminary information. This is back in the early 90s, folks. On page 44 and 60, they expressed their delight at such low cost. They actually have it broken down when you actually go into that, the links I'll give you from the government, at so much per ton. Which I'm sure the military, who don't mind spending billions in a single plane, could also share. By the way, they're using military jets. They decided eventually to change to military jets because when you force these metallic particles through the exhaust systems of jets, they tend to wear it out like a sandblaster would do. So they have to be special inside. Obviously, the titanium or some kind of carbide inside of it to stop it getting worn away as the stuff is blasted through. Perhaps one of the surprises of the analysis is the relatively low cost at which some of the geoengineering options might be implemented. On page 454 of the 1992 Global Geoengineering Report, they go into the costs of chemtrailing with Hughes-type technology. If a dust distribution mission requires the equivalent of a 500-mile flight, about 1.5 hours, the delivery cost for dust is $500 per ton. And ignoring the difference between the English and metric tons, a cost of 0.50 kilograms of dust. If 1010 kilogram must be delivered each 83 days, that's what they figured on, provided dust falls out at the same rate as soot, 5 times more than the 1987 total ton miles will be required. So they actually had figures in 87 as to what they were going to use on the public, but they started doing this about 94 instead up to 98. The question of whether dedicated aircraft could fly longer distances at the same effective rate should be investigated, so they decided to use the air forces for it. On page 459, the conflict of interest, so-called experts recommended going ahead with geoengineering as soon as possible. That was 92. And that the governments of the world can simply reduce as much CO2 as they care to pay for. So they're going to go ahead with this as soon as possible. And they said they could do it within 2 years. Cloud stimulation by provision of cloud condensation nuclei appears to be a feasible and low-cost option capable of being used to mitigate any quantity of CO2 equivalent per year. These possibilities appear feasible, economical, and capable of mitigating the effect of as much CO2 equivalent per year as we care to pay for. Lifting dust or soot to the tropopause or the low stratosphere with aircraft may be limited at low cost to the mitigation of 8 to 80 GT CO2 equivalent per year. Such systems could probably be put into full effect within a year or two of a decision to do so. And mitigation effects would begin immediately. Because the dust falls out naturally, if the delivery of dust were stopped, mitigation effects would cease within about 6 months for dust or soot delivered to the tropopause, and within a couple of years for dust delivered to the mid-stratosphere. The report by hand-picked experts and highly respected influential players ends up supporting this option as the most effective good news for GM. It's important to note that this technology is just a slight upgrade to the old geoengineering technology we forgot about or were not reminded about. The following two 1970s articles are from the New York Times archives, and I've got their links. I'll put them up on my site, cuttingthroughmatrix.com, at the end of the show. You can go and look them up yourself. But here's one from the New York Times, July 12, 73. Senate urges the U.S. to seek end to all environmental warfare. Rainfall patterns are altered, growing support noted. The Senate gave overwhelming approval today to a resolution calling on the U.S. to take a lead in seeking an international agreement to prohibit environmental warfare, such as past American rainmaking practices in Southeast Asia. They're using it in warfare over Vietnam and creating flood and mud areas all over so the enemy couldn't get through. Another article from the New York Times by Seymour Hersh, May 19th, 1974. U.S. admits rainmaking from 67 to 72 in Indochina, a first in warfare. May 18th, the Defense Department has acknowledged to Congress that the Air Force and Navy participated in extensive rainmaking operations in Southeast Asia from 1967 to 1972 in an attempt to slow the movement of North Vietnamese troops and supplies through the Ho Chi Minh Trail network. There you have government admitting they can change the climate decades ago. That international treaty was written up and ratified from 1977. That's at the United Nations. It's titled Convention on the Prohibition of Military or Any Other Hostile Use of Environmental Modification Techniques, and can be viewed on the Federation of American Scientists sites. The link is here, by the way, and on the Carnegie Endowment site, and the link for that's here too. This technology is obsolete, yet remarkably most of us would think it's a technology yet to be developed. Amazing how much we are not reminded of or not told about. And I'm telling you folks, we live in a completely fake paradigm. That's what the media, the general media, is there for. What the media does is they show you the side effects of policy implementations. Oh, look at that. Oh, isn't it terrible what they've done here? Oh, the cost of this, blah, blah, blah. That's what they give us, the side effects, the fallout, not the causes. Every day we get from media that it's normal for horrible things to happen to countries predominantly made up of brown or black people, and we don't bat an eyelid even if the pain is inflicted from a Western nation. But the question is, does unaccountable national security branches of governance have the same mindset when it comes to us, the peak of democratic civilized society? The UK, USA, France, Canada, and so on. Fortunately, there's an answer to that question, as briefly mentioned by the third largest newspaper in the UK, The Guardian. This is from the 21st of April 2002. A government report just released provides for the first time a comprehensive official history of Britain's biological weapons trials between 1940 and 1979. It's still classified after 79, folks. So this is what they have declassified. Many of these tests involve releasing potentially dangerous chemicals and microorganisms, that's bacteria and viruses, over vast swaths of the population without the public being told. That was all over Britain. The tests carried out by government scientists at Porton Down, this is what it says. The report reveals that military personnel were briefed to tell any inquisitive inquirer that the trials were part of research projects into weather and air pollution. That was from 1940 to 1979. One chapter of the report, The Fluorescent Particle Trials, reveals how between 1955 and 1963, planes flew from northeast England to the tip of Cornwall along the south end and west coast, dropping huge amounts of zinc, cadmium, highly carcinogenic by the way, sulfide, on the population. The chemical drifted miles inland, its fluorescence allowing the spread to be monitored. Cadmium is recognized as a cause of lung cancer and during the Second World War was considered by the Allies as a chemical weapon. In another, this is what they do, this is what your own, your own them, as opposed to others them. This is what your own them does to you. In another chapter, Large Area Coverage Trials, the Ministry of Defense describes how between 1961 and 68, more than 1 million people along the south coast of England from Torquay to the New Forest were exposed to a bacteria, including E. coli and Bacillus globigi, which mimics anthrax. These releases came from a military ship. And that's, I've put that out before. They did the same off Norwich. And then they tested the whole population who hadn't a clue. And all the doctors were in it through the National Health Service, collecting the data for the government. Oh yeah, you're dying of cancer. We don't know how it happened. Oh, so are the young. Oh, it's a mystery. The report also reveals details of the DICE trials in South Dorset between 71 and 75. These included US and UK military scientists spraying into the air massive quantities of Serratia marcescens bacteria with an anthrax stimulant and phenol. Some families in areas which bore the brunt of the secret tests are convinced the experiments led to their children suffering from birth defects, multiple birth defects, physical handicaps and learning difficulties. The report also confirms the use of anthrax and other deadly germs on tests aboard ships in the Caribbean and off the Scottish coast during the 1950s. The documents state, this is the official document, tacit approval for stimulant trials where the public might be exposed was strongly influenced by defence security considerations aimed obviously at restricting public knowledge. The public are never told what's been done to them. You have never been in any democracy, folks. You've been in a never land.
P. Mars is in it. You goddamn asshole, P. Mars.
What's up? Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah. Why do you fucking come around, you piece of shit?
I don't know. I try to educate you guys because you're like wrong about a lot
You
of
couldn't
facts.
fucking educate a wet goddamn flea on a dog's back, you fucking worthless. You know, you're about as useful as a fucking pimple on my ass.
That's just like your opinion, man.
Well, fuck you and your goddamn stupidity.
Oh, is that loser again here?
Yeah. Let's see here. How we do
I'm not a
this?
loser. You guys are like gloating over getting a vet's wrench taken away.
T-Mart,
You guys are adults.
You're a fucking idiot who won't fucking acknowledge that the Cavendish.
This morning the sky, it was blue, but now it's turned to gray, overcast. I see the reflection in your eyes as they do a 10-mile high drive. Hush now, baby, don't you cry as grandmommy's singing you lullaby. She says, don't worry, baby, someday soon we're gonna eat the rich. The experiments. I guess Granny never told you sometimes life can be a bitch. Like sheep, we just wait in line, pay their taxes, and bide our time. Rats in a cage.